I'm going to take you through a presentation and demonstration to introduce you to Rational Focal Point in the context of IT portfolio management. Focal Point is a very flexible web-based application that is used to automate portfolio and product management processes. It's very flexible, it's very configurable, and due to its top-down approach to portfolio management, it's fast to get up and running and adapt to how you work and your methods and processes and workflows. In the demonstration, we're going to be looking at three capabilities. Firstly, portfolio monitoring and reporting, and how you can get greater oversight of what's going on in the portfolio. Then we'll look at ways of prioritizing the new demand coming in, and then we'll look at ways of planning within the constraints, people, money, and time. In the first part of the demonstration, we're going to look at how we can use dashboards in Focal Point to get a better understanding of how the portfolio is progressing to meet our strategic objectives. We'll look at ways that we can manage by exception and drill down into the detail to see what's going wrong. When you log into Focal Point, you get to see a set of data and views that are tailored to your role in the process. And the way that I've got Focal Point set up here to provide a set of screens that help me to monitor the portfolio. I split my portfolio down into three different domains, and these are like containers, so any projects that are part of these domains are feeding information in order to determine the health from different perspectives. I can also monitor how my financials are comparing, how my actuals are comparing to what I expected from the perspective of costs and benefits. And I can flag things up on the dashboard that require my attention. So if I'm a portfolio manager, I might want to see projects or programs that are potentially going astray. I might want to drill down into this underlying detail and make sure that the program or project manager has a plan in place to bring the project back on track. I can also consolidate a lot of the disparate information that is related to managing the portfolio, and a great example is risks and issues. By having them centrally managed within Focal Point, linked to portfolios and linked to projects, we can begin to promote the visibility of some of the most important risks that we need to manage. I can also define a number of objectives that I'm going to govern the portfolio against, that the portfolio is delivering, and I can weight the importance of those. And by aligning my projects to these objectives, I can begin to ask myself, am I putting my money where my mouth is in the portfolio? So as an example, innovation is the most important objective, but at the moment all of the projects that are aligned to that are not delivering a significant amount of net present value. So maybe what I need to do is to look at the pipeline and promote those things that will help me achieve that objective more sooner. I can also get better visibility of what's going on across the portfolio. So I can define a number of stage gates or phases that my projects are going through, and I've got some numbers and some statistics here looking at where those initiatives are at different stages of the life cycle. So in the early stages, before projects become in flight, we provide a standard way to capture new initiatives, move them through a workflow, and collaborate on building up the business case. The next part of the demonstration will be looking at some of the ways that Focal Point can help to prioritize the new initiatives that are coming in. So we're looking at ways that we can combine quantitative and qualitative techniques, and how we can use visualizations within Focal Point to support decision making. There are three different techniques used to build priority lists. Pairwise comparisons are great when there's not a lot of known quantitative data, so very early on when you're trying to get a measure of value. What this does is it compares initiatives side by side, and stakeholders get to vote on which initiative in this case is going to provide the most value to our business. And there's a structured process to walk through a set of comparisons in order to build up a statistically significant result. A second technique are configurable scorecards, and we can use these to rate and rank how a set of initiatives align to, in this case, different parts of our strategy. So we can use scales to select how aligned the initiative is, and by adding up all of these numbers in the rows we can quantify the total score of the project. The third technique is to use known quantitative data from the business case. So information about the costs and the benefits. And similar to a spreadsheet, we can model these within Focal Point, where we can identify different types of capital and operational expenditure, benefits that we're projecting. And there are some useful capabilities to help understand the financial risk of some of these projections. So when you look further into the future, there's a certain amount of uncertainty around where the risks lie. We can model these within the tooling, and we can build up a statistically significant model around the net present value calculations for a project. So we can use this to understand what level of risk we're letting ourselves in for when it comes to the costs and the benefits within the business case. So we've looked at 3 different techniques to build these priority lists. The way that that's visualized within Focal Point is illustrated here. So in the top right hand corner of the screen you can see a number of measures which are used to support priority decisions. So we've got strategic alignment and benefits and costs and business value. The main part of the screen is providing a visual representation of the rank ordered list, ranging from, in this case, the most strategically aligned project at the top to the least strategically aligned project at the bottom. We can combine different measures together. So if we look at the quantitative data from the business case around the benefits, projects like the Cloud Readiness project move further down our list because not a lot of financial benefits, but very aligned to our strategy. We can get input from subject matter experts around the feasibility. We can engage our business leaders around the value that is being created through these initiatives. And what we have here is a value-driven approach to combine different perspectives together to help build consensus around what represents the most valuable initiative. We can then begin to do some of the trade-offs against risk and against cost. When I add those into the picture, we get a dividing line coming down which enables us to visually separate out the things that we want to minimize from the value that we want to create. The way that companies use these charts to support some of the business decisions that get made. So a very common one at the moment is, if these are all of the things that we're considering for 2013 and our budgets suddenly get cut by 30%, what selection of these potential initiatives do we need to cut in order to get beneath those clip levels? So if I deselect these bottom 6 projects here, I can see that reduces my costs by 34%. It also reduces my risk by 68%, but I'm still maintaining 72% business value, 67% of the financial benefits. Another scenario is if the business changes direction and becomes much more risk adverse, then we can look at changing the weighting or the importance of these criteria. So if I raise the weighting of risk to 40%, then very quickly, by looking at these black pincers which represent the net of the cost and risk taken away from the benefits, we can see that if we were to reorder the chart, the initiatives that are pushing further to the right would go higher up the chart. So potentially these are some of the things that should be used to guide our decision making. In the third part of the demonstration, we're going to look at how we can plan for delivery based on the constraints of people and money and time. We're going to look at how we can define the scope for a particular initiative and how we can model the capacity of resourcing that's required to deliver that. And then we'll look at how we can graphically build up a roadmap for change, and then how we can shift this around depending on some of the constraints. We can use the workflow in Focal Point to move the projects that we saw previously in the rank ordered list through to the next stage in a life cycle where we pre-plan those. This might involve defining a number of distinct business needs that the project is going to be delivering. The value of doing this is that if these are recognizable capabilities that the business can see, then if we run into delivery problems for some of these initiatives, then we can look to still deliver a reduced set of capabilities and value to the business rather than holding the project to ransom based on a couple of glitches. We can also capture the demand for particular resources, look at how that changes over time. We can also build up a model of the supply constraints, so the resource pools that we've got. So this is the resource profiles of how many developers have we got, how many testers have we got. Then we can bring these views of the supply and the demand and the dates and the capabilities all into a planning picture to look at how we can schedule these initiatives within the constraints that we've got. So what we can see here is a roadmap for change, which includes our in-flight projects as well as those things that we're considering in the future. At the bottom of the chart here we've got a red line which indicates our capacity for a given set of resources, and then the blue bar beneath that represents an aggregation of all of the demand for our resources over time. What we can then do is look at how we can sequence and move these initiatives around to deliver within those constraints. So as I move these initiatives to the right, to the left, you can see that the capacity and the supply constraints are dynamically changing. So this gives us a great way at a high level of planning within the constraints. That concludes the demonstration. As a recap, we looked at ways that we can get greater oversight of what's going on in the portfolio through web-based dashboards and reporting. We looked at 3 different ways that Focal Point can help build priority lists and support decision making, and then we looked at how delivery planning can be supported by building up a roadmap for change and identifying the capabilities and the demand and the supply constraints against which the projects need to be delivered.